And we're going live. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Let me just pop out the chat here. Thomas, I hope you're with me. I see you've left the chat room open on your computer, so you'll not miss it. I'm exactly on time. You may notice behind me that my environs have upgraded somewhat. I was very tempted to wear like a business jacket and a suit type thing today because of the upgraded metal shelving. Finally, my books are no longer in danger of collapsing in a massive pile of Dungeons and Dragons lore, along with various other game lines, including let's see, we've got Star Wars, Call of Cthulhu, all sorts. Good afternoon, west coast of the USA. Hey, Emil, DM Insomnia. You have to excuse my bleary-eyedness. I literally do these live streams when I wake up in the morning. Afternoon, KP. Last night I was up making a script on the barrier, which I'm mostly happy with. I didn't want to go into as much detail as I can with the barrier because I would literally be talking all day. But I cover a lot of information in there that you will not find anywhere else because, well, there's two sources that you can get extra information on the barrier as a player character race, which I think are vital if you wanted an insight into their culture and stuff. Hey, Redrick. Whoa, camera. Oh, my camera. Oh, that light's a bit heavy. I thought you were greeting me in in Gnomish. Nim Magna Camara. By the stones. Hey, thanks, KP. Love the content. Keep up the good work. I will. Thank you very much. Olivia, nice to see you. Lysander. Demon Inquisition, good morning. Good afternoon. Hey, Moonring. Zach. It goes very well, thank you. Well, that's my printer making its noises. Singing the song of its people. Travis, Voices from the Dark, Adrianeth, Seamus, everybody's piling in now. Brian, morning. Mitchell, Shakescan, Comic Dart, Gadzooks, Adam Garrick, Tie-Dye Draconomicon, Rhetoric, Silver Triforce, Zachary, Fandantu. Okay, we're all here. Voices from the Dark. Hey, did you have a good birthday? Yes, I did. Thank you very much. Dark Horse, nice to see you. Do I think an undead flail snail might work? Yeah, absolutely, Tie-Dye. Absolutely. Good idea. Especially if there's flails have a chance of flying off and hitting somebody at a ranged distance, just randomly. That would be awesome. Hey, Thomas, you are here. Oh, nice. Yeah, so everybody should have got notifications because I scheduled this live stream, and I think I'm going to carry on doing that from now on because it seems to work. And I've also noticed that there's been a lot of subscriber people who are subscribed to my channel are watching a lot of my videos lately, which is really good. Normally it's heavily outweighed by people who aren't subscribed to my channel, but it's actually a lot better for my algorithm if people who are subscribed to my channel are actually watching my videos within the first couple of hours that they come out. I'm not putting any pressure on anybody. I'm just saying that's the way it is. YouTube looks on that very favorably. That actually weighs into whether they recommend the channel to other people, apparently. As you get higher and higher in the subscriber count of YouTube, they give you more information on how it actually works in the background. Yeah, so some guy camping. There are Warhammer 40k is being included in commander packs for Magic the Gathering, which makes it kind of questionable whether they're going to be legal in any sort of tournament play. But yeah. Hey, that's right. It's your birthday, Moonring. Happy birthday, bro. Happy birthday. Many exits chittles to you. I know much on this topic of Warhammer 40k. Yeah, so do I. Not well. I know the general gist of it. I know the general gist of this massive body of lore. Things to remember about Warhammer 40k for Dungeons and Dragons players and people who are relatively new to it. Some backstory on where Games Workshop came from. Games Workshop was originally the UK arm of Dungeons and Dragons. So the guys over there worked closely with the TSR, Tactical Studies Rules, Gary Gygax and those guys, and they had a magazine called White Dwarf, which was it was Dungeons and Dragons and every other sort of role-playing game that was around at the time, and so it was like Boot Hill and Star Frontiers and all that sort of stuff, Palladium, all that stuff, Champions and things. Now, what happened was they were producing a monster manual, the second monster manual for Dungeons and Dragons, which ended up being the Fiend Folio, because for whatever reason, something fell through with their business dealings, and they were going to be producing all of the miniatures for Dungeons and Dragons for the UK, because sending pewter miniatures and stuff around the world was really expensive. And they decided that it would make more sense to set up local businesses around the world, which would service particular areas. In New Zealand, they actually produce miniatures here as well, and that's a different story. So what happened is that Games Workshop eventually became its own entity and had Warhammer Fantasy, which is its own game line, and that morphed into Warhammer 40k. And they were always more concerned with it was always a role-playing game and a tabletop war game as well. But it's very, very, very focused on the tabletop wargaming aspect of it. But I think the role-playing game is fantastic as well, and it's just as much fun as Dungeons & Dragons. I could play Warhammer 40k, Dark Inquisition, or Rogue Trader every day. You're subbed and you're watching it live? Excellent, Citizens Guard. So, Wizards of the Coast recently, and Hasbro, mainly Hasbro has noticed the success of Wizards of the Coast lately. I don't normally cover sort of gaming news, but this is very interesting for me. And they've, with the Warhammer 40k crossing over into Magic the Gathering, it poses lots of interesting questions. If this pans out a little bit, I mean, we've seen Ravnica, we've seen Theros, Mystic Odyssey of Theros, which are crossovers from Magic the Gathering into tabletop role-playing. Could we see a crossover of Warhammer 40k into the tabletop role-playing scene of Dungeons & Dragons? Would Games Workshop actually be interested in coming back into the fold and recombining the IP and their creative genius with Dungeons & Dragons once more? Because I don't care about the logistics of it. As a long-time fan of the hobby, I'd have to say that would make me extremely happy. Extremely happy. Hey TJ's Magic of Drawing, nice to see you. I'm doing well, thank you. Yeah, the Warhammer miniatures are outstanding. The game lines themselves, I've never been much of a Warhammer Fantasy fan. I liked some of the articles and stuff they had in the early Dragon magazines and White Dwarf magazine in particular. They do mutations and chaos mutations and stuff very well. Car Wars, yeah. Oh, Lysander, that's a good question. Is there a way to prevent a shape changer from changing the silver shackles for a werewolf or something? Salt is... like in other game lines, shape changes were vulnerable to salt. That's not a thing in Dungeons and Dragons, but if you want to do something like that, then you could do something like that. Yeah, you think Games Workshop have some connections to Citadel Miniatures as well? Yep, that's right. Yeah, Citadel Paints is their branch of paints for Games Workshop. I would like to see, like, I'm less interested in. It would please me more to have a supplement come out, like a full-on world-setting book for Dominaria than Spelljammer. Like, I think we perfectly are capable of running Spelljammer on what we have now. All it would really need is a little splash book with some of the more interesting races and just a brief summary of what Spelljammer is and a map of, you know, locations that you can go to. We don't really need a hell of a lot to run Spelljammer. We have everything we need in the rules right now. However, Dominaria ties in so much Magic the Gathering lore that it boggles me that that's not the first thing that they went for. Maybe they're holding back to see how Theros and Ravnica went, and I think they've done pretty well. But really, I think Wizards of the Coast needs to realise that you can't just dip your toe into the water of a crossover between Magic the Gathering and tabletop role-playing. We're big adults, we can handle it. Give us the full work, you know, give us the full Dominaria and really pile that lore on us. We can take it. Particularly fans of this channel, we can handle it, and that will open up so much more content for me to cover. Hey Mac. Just a reminder to everybody, I've got a super giant super chats sign. It's a monetized stream. Thanks, Robert Wilson. How would Skaven work in 40k or D&D? Well, they work pretty well in Warhammer 40k. They basically would just be another Xenos species. Perhaps even, I don't know, there'd be a blight in hive worlds, that's for sure. Skaven are really like chaos orientated rat folk, and I quite like them. They're a very popular army as well. And yeah, all of those different factions of Warhammer 40k make for really interesting thought experiments. Like, what happens if a Space Marine squad lands on faerun? Like, how do they fare against dragons and stuff, and wizards? Yeah, Warhammer lore is very deep, and it's very, very rich. I mean, you've got 40,000 years of history in Warhammer 40k. Warhammer Fantasy is tied in with, you know, dark powers and that sort of stuff. It's more like a world going into an apocalypse. What's my favorite monster from White Dwarf? Oh, that's easy. The Githyanki. Because everything that's in the Fiend Folio came from White Dwarf magazine. Pretty much. So everybody who's playing Baldur's Gate 3 at the moment, you can thank Games Workshop and White Dwarf magazine for that. And how's that? They're tied into Spelljammer. So we're already ready for a... What? Army Painter is the old line of paints remade? Yeah? You think? You think they found an old formula somewhere and that's it? I don't know. Hey Christian. Welcome to the stream. Joseph, I'm good, thanks. Dog Draws. Just finished SC6. I want to ask, what is your opinion on the weapons that possess the wielder? It's very unpopular with player characters when weapons do that. I've had a character who was named Sword and also something else. He basically, his personality, he swapped out with the sword. It was very complicated. Would Spelljammer need vehicle combat rules? We've already got vehicle combat rules. If you go to your Dungeon Master's Guide, and you can see the pictures of like dirigibles. Somewhere. Somewhere deep in the bowels of this book. Here we go. Airborne and Waterborne vehicles. This is page 119. And essentially what you do is you deal with the hit points per like 10 foot of ship, and figure out by basically what its damage threshold is. So how much damage can a ship absorb in one go before it actually starts doing some structural damage to the thing. So the ships have got hit points, they've got a damage threshold, and then you basically use siege weapons, which are covered in here as well. So ballistas and that sort of stuff, and ray guns and things. It's pretty easy to handle. The question gets down to like, what's the maneuverability of a ship? That's where it gets a little bit more complicated. So there's various rule systems you can use for maneuvering ships and stuff around in three-dimensional space on a map or whatever. But I mean, these days you can probably handle it with an app. Go searching somewhere. Other role-playing systems will have better like vehicle combat rules. I mean, the resources are there if you just look for them. Bree's doing great. She just had her first visit to the vet and got vaccinated, and she's booked in next month for the full treatment, microchipping and all that sort of stuff. You've homebrewed Skaven, they're called the Rat Folk, yeah. Thanks, Moonring. Ixod's Archittle in Warhammer Fantasy, yay or nay? Yay? Yeah, I suppose so. Thanks, Zozocolo. They have 40k in D&D. It's called Athos. Donald's angry. Oh, we got a naysayer. D&D Warhammer crossover is straight cancer. Please elucidate. Yeah, Spelljammer has combat rules. It does. I think they're overly complicated. Hey, Jeremy. Oh, they purchased the formulas for the old colours, which Game Workshop discontinued. When Games Workshop discontinued. Oh, that's interesting. Perhaps Eberron mixes well with Warhammer 40k. Yeah, it probably would. But you'd be surprised how easily technology mixes in with a high magic world setting. Because high technology and high magic are pretty much the same stat-wise. Thanks, Jeremy. Running Lost Mines tonight. They're headed into the Red Brand hideout. Any fun ideas outside of the module as written? Have a look at the campaign setting around it. So look at what may possibly be going on in that area, other than like they're on a major sort of road between Arm and the Sword Coast. So think about trade caravans, banditry, what sort of monsters would be in the area, like possible roving knights and stuff who would protect the trade route. Weather effects, the local influence of a dragon on weather and climate and terrain and stuff like that. Thanks, Bilbo. Hi, AJ. I hope all is well in New Zealand. Yeah, we've got some news in New Zealand. Have you read the Wizards of the Earthsea series, and can you discuss how true name magic works in D&D? I think one of the best resources for all the different weird types of magic is Kobold Press. They've come out with the Deep Magic supplement, which is around somewhere. Now, to remind you, Kobold Press came out with Tome of Beasts, Creature Codex, and stuff like that, so they are legit for 5th edition. Where is that book? Deep Magic. This is the story of my life. I need to organise my bookshelf. I mean, I've just put everything back on here. Really, I should put stuff where I need it. Here we go. Here it is. So here's Deep Magic. It is packed. 700 new spells for 5th edition. And True Name Magic is one of the sections in here, I believe. Where are we? Dark Magic, Labyrinth Magic, Arcane Traps, Spell Variations, Winter Magic, the Wizard's Entourage, Ring Magic, Rune Magic, Shadow Magic, Temporal Magic, Illumination Magic, Alchemancy, Angelic Magic, Chaos Magic, Dragon Magic, Elven Ritual Magic, Hieroglyph Magic. Class options. Let's go to the back here because they've usually got a pretty good indexy thing. No, they don't. Okay. Essentially, if you do a ritual where you know the true name of something, it can basically zero in on it, much like teleportation circle magic works, if you think of it that way. It just gives you an extra locked-on ability to tie into the thing directly. It works really well with planar creatures and stuff who are at a different vibrational frequency. So in order to lock onto them with your magic, knowing their true name, it resonates across the planes. That sort of thing. Thanks, Kilovash. Thanks, Donald Smead. Thanks, Mason. I don't think there would be a 40k crossover because they just released their own tabletop RPG, Wrath and Glory. Also, do you have a favourite chapter? Yeah, Dark Templars are my favourite chapter. Closely followed by Dark Angels. I like the Dark Angels because they've got secrets. Dark secrets. Blood Angels have also got secrets, but they're like, we know what the secret is. Thanks to the Curse of Sanguinus. But the Dark Angels are more mysterious. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, they've got their own tabletop role-playing games. They have for a very long time. That doesn't stop them crossing over with 5th edition. I mean, there's a chance that they could make a lot of money, tapping into an already massively existing audience. So expanding their audience of the Warhammer 40k tabletop role-playing game, how could they possibly lose? Sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. That's true. What system would you use for Warhammer 40k D&D? Well, I used 4th edition when I made a supplement called Dragonhammer. I think there's other people who have made a supplement called Dragonhammer as well. And it worked really well in 4th edition, as you can imagine. Thanks, Adrianeth. Dark Secrets of the Bees. Did I not say Black Templars? What did I say? Did I say Dark Templars? Didn't I say Black Templars? I'm sure I did. Cheese bees. The Anger Marines. What about the magic from the Eberron books? I haven't read the Eberron books. Thanks, Comic Nut. Hey AJ, totally off topic, but I need your sage advice. My buddy is playing a low intelligence barbarian and he thinks wearing a pot on his head blocks mind flayer powers, i.e. tinfoil blocks government signals. That's not true, right? No, it's not true. It's not true. Let's see. You could have it so that lead, like a half-inch of lead blocks psychic powers, if you wanted to. What about silver? Like a thick silver pot or something like that, maybe. Don't cross the streams. Like, there's a lot of people whose knee-jerk reaction will be, no, keep my IP separate. But like, we don't know what the possibilities are. Here's the thing. If you don't have the option, you're never going to have the option to refuse, right? But if you have the option, you can still refuse it and not have anything to do with it, not buy the products, but it gives the option for other people to explore it. It's not stepping on anybody's toes to give more options for role-playing games. So anybody who's like, you've ruined Dungeons & Dragons, it's like, ruined what? You can still play 2nd edition or 3rd edition or 4th edition or basic or OSR, Osric, Tunnels and Trolls. Nobody's burnt the old D&D books, you know. So nobody's going to change these printed books here. Like, here's your 5th edition enshrined in print. They don't set it on fire when they make a new supplement. AJ, is there a feywild linked to the Abyss? The feywild is a plane of existence that is it's a multiverse sort of thing. So the feywild is tied in with the astral plane, and the astral plane is one of those medium planes that connects lots of different things, like the ethereal. So the ethereal and the astral plane connect stuff. And in the prime material plane, the phlogiston is kind of representative of a connecting stuff plane as well. A lot of people would say that the phlogiston in between all the crystal spheres, if you like that. I did say Dark Templars. Oh, dear oh dear. It's Black Templars. The phlogiston, yeah, I was thinking dark angels at the same time. Anyway, the phlogiston is like a connective medium as well. Is what I was trying to say. Lies! Only things I like are good. Yeah, it's like that. Don't cook with lead, kids. Yeah, don't cook in pewter pots either. Another thing I wanted to show people is... Where did I leave it? Oh, man. Where's it gone? It's terrible. I need to work out what I'm going to be like talking about. I got the D&D cookbook for 5th edition. Here it is, Heroes Feast. It's interesting actually because it's a bit shorter than your standard D&D book. Like, let's grab a 5th edition book here. It's a different shape. It's a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, and a bit fatter than your average book. So it's chunky. It's a chunky book, boy. It's sick. We also got Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, which I think I've cracked open once or twice so far. I'll probably have a look at it. It's got some new monsters in it, so obviously that piques my attention. But Heroes Feast is actually way better than I thought it was, because I saw everybody reacting to it and raving about it, and then I picked it up and like, yeah, this is. You just pick this up. It's lavishly illustrated with lots of actual pictures of the meals and stuff in sort of authentic D&D settings. It's a really nice book. I actually recommend you pick this up. Sembian honey glazed roast ribs. Roast. Nice. It's shaped like a cookbook, yeah. Hey Moonring, thank you. What am I doing this week? Need any suggestions? No, I've got it covered. So I'm doing the Rhaegar, Dragon Hordes, Ripplebark, the Barrior, Fire Newts, Bardic Magic, and in the Barrior video I'm going to be talking about my plans for the next several months, which is I'm going to bring you all of the planar player characters that you can play, the races that you can play if you're playing a planar campaign. So Bladelings and like Rogue Modrons, all that sort of stuff. Real juicy. Hey Jeffrey, I made the Traveller's Stew and the Evermead from the Heroes Feast last night. Recommend it 100% as a book to buy. Yeah, it's really good. Oh yeah, I got the alternate cover. Yeah, the alternate cover for Tasha's. That's just the one that they had on the shelf. The cookbook needs to fit in your adventurers pack. Yeah. Thanks, Gadzooks. Great idea for a new Hasbro Warhammer cartoon. Starts at a fairground with with something like, "Hey, look, a Warhammer 40k ride." Not for kids. Yeah, exactly. Hey, look, a Warhammer 40k ride. Why is there blood leaking out of it? Do you hear the screams of the damned? Apparently it runs on pain. You had me at honey glazed. Yeah, I know, right? That's right, the Rhaegar. And my covering of ancient species. Gets an idea on modifying beer can chicken recipes for D&D Universe. Yeah. Weren't the Shadowvar elite fighting the High Zerai in some novels? I mustn't have read those ones. I didn't actually read any of the novels which were, or not yet. I barely even got through like the tearing of the weave and stuff. I'm very like behind the play on the Cormier material. Yeah, no, I'd watch that too, James, for sure. I still have a dream that one day we'll see a Piercer and Roper cartoon, syndicated cartoon. That would be awesome. Very sort of neo slapstick Rick and Morty. I have been entering... Hey, thanks, Robert. I've been entertaining a level 1 to 20 adventure that builds up to the discovery of an uncorrupted aspect of Tharizdun. I was wondering if you had any advice on who would be the main antagonists. Spellweavers. Yep, Spellweavers. Spellweavers and Shard Mines from 4th edition would be pretty good options for that. And dragons, and a lot of the ancient species, you know, Githzerai, Githyanki, Mind Flayers, Lachey, the creator races, you know. Have some Saruk show up. Thanks, Bilbo. Weird question. But how are cross-species romances viewed in Faerun society? Are such pairings met with acceptance or adversity? Like human, dwarf, elf, gnome, etc. Elf, gnome. Let's see. Mum, Dad, I'd like you to meet Fibblewhip, Squid, Hollow, Flufflepump. He's a gnomish inventor. And we're going to get married. Well, pretty much the same way any intelligent society would. You know, as according to their religious mores and their bigotry, elves in particularly bigoted about cross-species relationships because of the whole reincarnation thing. Humans, Captain Kirkit, you know, it's all right. What's that, Gadzooks? Would be cheap to make, last about 30 seconds. Was what you mean, like a ride? Hey, Scorch. Nice to see you. Mucknack, how big do you think is the chance that the upcoming D&D show is going to be a horror story set in the Abyss? Well, they're pretty heavy on Ravenloft at the moment, so they're going to be pushing that like crazy. Hey, Alexander. Hey, Fairy King. As for Ravenloft, I'm kind of glad that they've completed the rounding out of things with the Planes of Dread. I'm interested to see what Planes of Dread they include in there, because some of them are like, they're essentially like the Hammer horror films and stuff, like Bride of Frankenstein, The Werewolf, The Mummy, that sort of thing. Like, it's all tied into there. Like, the Domains of Dread were designed so that you could bring traditional horror stories into Dungeons and Dragons, but keep them separate. Kind of like they did with Magic the Gathering. Like, Ravnica is in D&D, but it's separate, and Theros is in D&D, but it's separate, and Eberron is in D&D, but it's separate, and Athos is in D&D, but it's separate. You know, that sort of thing. Mystara is in D&D, but it's separate. You know, so it's a multiverse, but there's all these segregations for IP that's like, you can include it or not, it's up to you. Hey, Rhetoric, thank you. I'm a chef, AJ. If you ever want to collab on food, I would love the opportunity, knowing what you have talked about your early life. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I am not a chef. I am just a humble cook, raised in a restaurant kitchen. But, yeah, I certainly would be into cooking some stuff. And I've had some really good feedback from everybody with my crafting photos that I've been adding to the community tab. Just to remind people why the channel is called The Mighty Gluestick. It's because I have crafting skills. I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty damn good at it. And I've been, you know, I haven't stopped. So, yeah, I will have possibly, definitely an upcoming video of me producing something, and maybe in future I will like sell some courses to people. How does that sound? I don't know. Like, if you want to actually like learn to do what I do, because it's like I can teach it pretty well, I think. Like, I'm pretty sure I could teach it in a way that anybody could do it. Make a gibbering mouther and a purple worm and whatever you want. Gargamel Gold, thank you. If not stopped, wouldn't 40k factions commit genocide against faerun and Eberron? The Imperium wouldn't tolerate the Xenos and all that chaos magic. Yeah. Yeah. Thomas, please don't call the human race intelligent. I'll call us sapient. How's that? We're our only example of human intelligence that we have. So if we're not intelligent, nothing is. Did you say Captain Kirking it? Yes, I did. That's a thing. Hey, Mr. Eccentric. I'm good, thank you. Long time no see. Casper, do you think you could keep your mind if you true polymorph into an aboleth? Good question. It's impossible to true polymorph your brain into an aboleth brain, because aboleths have got racial memory tied into their DNA. So you can't do that. You couldn't. That would be like game breaking. If you polymorph into something and then suddenly gained all of its racial memories, that would be game breaking. The difference would be if you true polymorphed into an illithid and then were basically picked up as a receiver by an elder brain who would then mentally dominate you. So that's an interesting prospect. He who wields the stick of glue is the chosen one. Yeah. Halfling and Hill Giant wedding. No. Problematic as fuck. You've seen a bit lately of my crafting. It's cool. Yeah. I've got much more to show you. Yes, that is Crystal Skull vodka that you see in the shop behind me. There's actually some in there too. You would knock the socks off anyone I ever looked across a Games Workshop table at. Yep. Have a teaching course for Patreons. That's a good idea. Yeah. What are my thoughts on the Primaris Marines? They don't exist, as far as I'm concerned. He who can craft so well that he only needs to sell and never needs to buy rules the world. Yeah, I have actually sold a few miniatures. Alexander, I've never played Warhammer. Like, I've painted the miniatures and stuff, but I've never actually managed to sit down at a table, stand around a table, and run a Warhammer like combat. I have played a tabletop war game, and I've always wanted to play Frostgrave, but I've never had the opportunity to. But I would love to. Illithid Psychers, yeah, absolutely. Hello, World Bigfoot Radio. DJ Ghostman. Hey, Corey. I'm good, thanks. Have you bought a resin 3D printer yet for your crafting efforts? No, I haven't. I've got a 3D printer down on the bottom of the shelf here that you can't see. It's just below here. But I haven't fired it up for months. Thanks, Kilovash. Forgot to ask a question last time. Dream Herb cough. So, an anti-Surlon Gith hunting party. Any special gear they may carry? Love the vid. Pretty much the same gear that they use against the Illithids would work perfectly well against the Surlon. And really it's just a matter of training and getting in before the Surlon can set up any sort of defenses and stuff. The Surlon make use of slave stock, slave warriors and fanatics just as much, if not more, than the Illithids do. The Surlon also don't use the same sort of level of organic technology that the Illithids do, so they don't mutate creatures and experiment on things. Like, they're less mad scientists and more just mental brutes that will dominate you until, like, if you've watched the recent It movies, when a character is hit by the deadlights, that's when a Surlon is applying its mental force to them. They're just blam, hit them like a ton of bricks. They don't mess around. Thanks, Adrianeth. You'll absolutely take a course, because I've always been daft when it comes to sculpting. Yeah, so, okay. Alright. Let's do it. It will be months from now, I must say, because I'm working on the Kickstarter in the background. The Kickstarter's doing very well. Everything's going smoothly. We've got the molds in production for the base set products of the Kickstarter package that you pledge for done, or in the process of being done. So I'll be getting test samples from that on mid-March, I would say, and it's definitely going to be up and running before like Christmas time for sure. But I'll probably be like moving on to the next thing, and that would be courses for sculpture. Yeah, I've had, this is my third 3D printer. I started off with an A8, and then I went with the oh no, this is my fourth printer. So I started off with one which you basically have to build yourself. Then I went with the more sort of commercial one from the factory in China. Then I went with the original Prusa that I bought from somebody else. And now I've got this like very flash looking inner box kit set one that's self-calibrating, all that sort of stuff. And it works great. You've only played one Warhammer game so far. That's a hell of an investment. I hope you're using somebody else's miniatures. Hey DJ Ghostman, can you say hello to my bro-in-law? Shout out Alex, got him watching with me. Hey Alex, how's it going? Yep, that's a giant red dragon. Am I in league with the Chromies? I wouldn't say in league. Like, I have to give them coins every now and then. And I never get them back. So, you know how you, like, have a jar or something that you put your coins down? he has a hoard of coins there, which I'm never going to get back. He's got about $30 sitting in front of him. Mind you, he's got some old coins which are no longer legally tender. And he doesn't know. You've only experienced peripherally? It's an entertaining game to watch, sometimes. I could easily see AJ building a custom artillery Dawi army. If I were a psycho, what would my speciality be? I don't know. Do you have a laptop DM screen prototype we can see? No, not yet. One thing I should say about these products coming out is they're all very practical. So they're not flashy in a way. They are built to, like, the design principles that I have going into this is that I'm not going to produce anything that people haven't already bought and paid for. So I'm not going to overproduce stuff that sits on a shelf and wastes resources and creates an environmental problem. They're going to be shipped out in hemp bags. They are silicone, which is inert material. It's non-toxic. It's safe around kids and pets and whatever. You can literally cook a pizza on it. It's so bloody tough. It will last a lifetime. So you only need to buy it once, which I think in our golden age of technology that we're living in, we shouldn't be buying products expecting them to break. We should be engineering stuff that will last a lifetime. Like, shouldn't we be getting into this golden age of, like, they don't build them like they used to? Like, they didn't build them like that back in the 1940s. I've got a vacuum cleaner that my grandmother bought. The thing is as tough as hell. You can paint a house with it because it not only sucks stuff off the ground, you can reverse it and it blows stuff like an air compressor. It's amazing. Like, Dyson vacuum pumps, Dyson technology, blah, blah, blah. Dyson will break way before that thing will. Like, there isn't a Dyson vacuum cleaner in the world that can do what that can. And it was standard. It was a standard vacuum cleaner back in those days. So I am building products which they will not build them like this again. I'm good, thanks, Judy Bear. Nice to see you. Hey Sky, question from last stream. What happens if I cast Sympathy Antipathy on my PC and he goes into the feywild? Do the locals treat me friendly or run away? Sympathy Antipathy. Well, the spell behaves as it should, I would say. The Fey are generally not very susceptible to enchantment, though. Mind control, charm type spells. So, yeah, think about it. Enteromancy? Yeah, probably Enteromancy. Sit down with me for 5 minutes and I will plumb the depths of your soul. I can read your base code like Neo in the Matrix. It's not a Kirby. Planned obsolescence is a capitalist dream. It's a capitalist nightmare. It's the fallacy of the limitless resource, right? So it comes down with, like, it's almost like philosophical because it's not based in any sort of practical world that we live in. We have limited resources, so obviously unlimited market growth is not possible unless you're transitioning to ideas being the basis of your economy. But if you're talking about actual raw resources, we're not in an unlimited. We're in a glass house. Like we're in a biosphere. We can't expand unless we like expand out into the universe pretty quick. Like we run out of resources. What's the name? Elon Musk is whinging at the moment because like nickel is really, really hard to get these days, and it's like basis of so many batteries and stuff that he uses in his car. So he wants to transition away from using nickel into some new technology. It's like nickel, a metal, is becoming rare, right? And This idea that you can just like build things, design them to break so that people will have to buy them again, it's fucked. It's evil. It's evil, right, to do that. It's a stupid thing to do. It's like, I'm going to build something inferior and give it to people so it'll break and they'll have to buy a new one. It's not smart. It's stupid to do that. Why not build something where, like 3M, for instance, has made its name building better basic products, like a 3M plaster like that you stick on a scratch is better than other brands because they just put a bit of money into R&D and materials. So, you know, if you built a mouse pad that never wears out, if you built a like these things, for instance, how many of these have you bought over your life? Like, couldn't we engineer some that just never degrade, never break, that have connections and cords and stuff that are tough as hell? Like, we can build space shuttles, we can build cords, USB cords that don't break. So my design philosophy is I'm building products that you can hand down to your children. Oh, what's the Kickstarter for in general? So here's an example. This here is a rewritable silicon sheet. Essentially, you just, this is, I've redesigned it so that the numbers go the other way around, by the way. Cost me an extra $150 to change the mold, but it was worth it. So it's an initiative tracker for your D&D games. If you're running them online or wherever, this just folds up and sits in your pocket and it's ready to go whenever you need it. It's got a little counter up here for death saves or ammunition or your spell slots or whatever you want, or the number of rounds that you've had of combat so far. And it's got a little grid down the bottom here just so you can, if you're playing online, for instance, you can hold it up and say, I want my character to move from there to there on the map, if you don't have access to Roll20 or whatever. But it's also a good way of keeping track of things like spell effects and things like that, or the distance from somebody to something. Or you can do all sorts of things with it, whatever. You can also write on the back of it if you want to. So that's the material, right? Silicon. It's tough as hell. And it's also including a generic character sheet for any role-playing system that you want to use. All of them basically have the same sort of stuff. It's all blank so that you can just put whatever you want on there. It's not designed to be like your permanent character sheet. It's just all the stuff that you write and change all the time so that you're not keeping notes on a scrap of paper right? So it just replaces paper. Plus there's going to be a great big battle mat. So it's got a grid on one side and hexes on the other, and there's also going to be an option to buy a big clear silicon sheet so that you can put it down over existing maps that you've printed out, or over top of a computer screen or a big TV screen that you've got one of those animated maps going on so that you can draw on it with a rewritable pen. It works perfectly well with Crayola markers and stuff. And yeah, we've been you had me sold at pizza. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Moonring. Did I miss it? So yeah, that's what the Kickstarter's for. And there's also a DM screen for the front of your laptop. So they basically put it on the front of the laptop, and it has fold-out sides and stuff because everybody uses laptops at the table these days. And I think it makes sense that they should be your DM screen. And there's a dice tray and there's a dice tower thingy, which is a flat sheet that you roll up and fit together to make a tube dice tower. And various other things. So that's what the basic pledge is going to be for. Moonring, thank you. If you were to make an army from one of the Forgotten Realms factions, like a Warhammer Fantasy, which ones would you choose? The Illithid. Definitely the Illithid. The Cult of Thune would be like their version of the Dark Elder for the Illithid. Yeah, hands down, Illithid. Thanks, Aiden. Making some constructs for my homebrew world. Any weird quirks or gimmicks you would enjoy being tortured by as a player from a construct? There are some interesting things that you can do with constructs. Like, for instance, a ball-bearing construct is like a golem. Ball-bearing golem is a real pain in the ass, or a treasure hoard golem is another pain in the ass. There's quite a few of them in like the Kobold Press monster manuals. Possessed golems, ones that are like actually house possessing spirits. So they're not like a traditional golem, they're actually just a pile of junk which is animated by a trapped poltergeist. Silicon is useful, yeah. I did a lot of research on how silicone is produced. Mr. L, wait, what? Wasn't this tomorrow? No, it's today. I think if big companies were to sell things that actually lasted longer, people would actually buy them. Yeah, they would. Yep. I mean, that doesn't get through their head that if you build a torch which never breaks, you become the company that sells the best torch in the world. And there is billions of people in the world. So you can sell literally billions of that torch. So selling cheap shit that breaks with the idea that you can sell more of that cheap shit is just a terrible business model. Doesn't make any sense. Oh yeah, laptops back in the 80s would have been great. Well, they had laptops back, well, sort of, but yeah. Oh, my eyes just wandered down to the bottom of my screen where the time is showing 11:58. Wow, it's like I know exactly when an hour has passed. What is a treasure hoard golem? Basically, it's a golem which is made up of lots of coins and gems and stuff. In a world with tomatoes, cheese, and bread, there is absolutely no reason why pizza wouldn't exist. The problem is, without helicopters, what would be used to deliver it? Note, this is a question. What? What? Yeah. So the original pizza was just a piece of flat bread with some onion on it, essentially. Thanks, Adrianeth. You keep saying that, but gnomes would go out of business. Yeah. I mean, there's always room for improvement in a product. Hey, Gargamel. It's midnight in Sweden. What sort of scheme would a Hellfire Worm have on the material plane? Well, they like hurting things, like a lot. They are lawful. They exist in a lawful evil plane, so that's their mindset. Now it's interesting that you've got a chromatic sort of a dragon, with a lawful evil mindset, not a chaotic evil one. So they are evil with a purpose. So whatever their scheme would be, it will be highly self-serving and very destructive and involve burning a lot of people. Yeah. The closest thing I had to a laptop back then was my Apple IIc, and the monitor was too big to move. Yeah. People have no idea. I'm going to turn on my laptop and I'm going to go and make a cup of coffee, and when I come back it'll be turned on with the button that I push. Is necromancy considered evil in D&D? No, necromancy is a study of life and death magic, right? So it's life and death. But the practice of necromancy is evil because it's a net negative. So it causes harm to the environment. when you do necromancy. Like, whatever you do in necromancy, it's always going to cause suffering somewhere down the track. It's like somebody picks up the bill for necromancy, and it's generally not you. What would I recommend for an aberration under CR6? A Mimic, I think, is under a CR6. Mimic's pretty good. Von and Dodd. Is Adam Power here? Hello, Adam Power. Hey, man. Could separate pieces of the Von and Dodd function in any way if a PC got it? I look, it's your campaign. I would say yes. Wouldn't resurrection is not necromancy per se. Like communication, it does involve communication with the spirit. Necromancy is joy and happiness. Yeah, the undead in D&D only existed to destroy the living. Yeah, it's true. Oh, feel free to disagree with me if you want. Like, for example, wizards generally live for a very long time in Dungeons and Dragons and other fantasy tropes. So my theory is that they use necromancy to drain life force from things. And also, it's kind of implied that there's like planar travel and stuff like that, or they become a focus of something like sort of a D&D magic relativity effect. So the more magic they have flowing through them, the longer they live. Like elves, for instance, have the ability to channel magic like nobody's business. Like they can lightning rod magic to an extent that they can use high magic. And high magic is so powerful that only a few elves in every generation of them can handle that amount of magic flowing through them. It's not a matter of spell slots and stuff like that. They literally engineer the environment around them and put themselves in a position where the planets are channeling the right amount of power. It's the right time of year. They've got the right songs. They've got the right people around them, and fate is tied into it as well. So they are born to cast certain high magic spells. Like, it's inevitable. And when it does happen, it's a lightning rod that does things that even gods can't do. Like, for instance, it wasn't the gods that banished the drow, it was elves that did it using high magic. But that story will also be told. Anyway, it's time for me to go, people. Oh yeah, Thomas. I mean, my first PC that I had had compressed 1.8 gigabytes of memory total, and that was awesome. Wow, 170 people in the chat. Good chat. Okay, time for me to go, everybody. Catch you later. See you next weekend, same time. Look forward for the next video, which will be on Barrier. I'm also going to be doing a video on the Keepers as well. We've got some research material here. Keepers are basically like the men in black for Dungeons and Dragons. So we're going to be talking about them. Sorry, Sanchgate. That's okay, Juju Bear. It is, yeah, it's midday for me. Midday Sunday over here, and I'm about to go and have some breakfast. For the Emperor, sign of the Aquila. Catch you later, everyone.